Oh my Lord, what have I done? 3 months ago, I quit my job and my family and I packed our bags and about 15,000 other items in a shipping container. We left Canada behind and took a leap of faith. We moved to El Salvador. Now, after settling in, we've had time to reflect on this life-changing experience. Let me share our journey with you, what we've observed, what we love, and what are still some challenges that we're working on. Buenas tardes, mis amigos. Que el Señor los bendiga y los guarde. The people and the culture. One of the first things we noticed was how welcoming and kind the people of El Salvador are. From our friends and neighbors to shopkeepers, everyone has gone out of their way to make us feel at home. Anyone that you meet on the street says buenos dias or buenas tardes. When we started making friends and having people over for business meetings, starting with the details of our shipping container, which didn't leave Canada until October and should be here on Friday, that's a whole other video. We noticed that our friends were always coming with their hands full of treats for the kids and presents for us. We only knew these people in person for a couple of weeks. And they were doing these things that I have to say, even in Canada, with friends I've had for years and years and years, I feel embarrassed I never did those things. I think our friend Stan felt embarrassed when he was taking us around looking at neighborhoods in Lourdes, and I'd suggested that we go visit our friends Hannah and Dave because they lived in this area. And it was lunchtime and we were coming empty-handed. He said that's a cultural faux pas. You just don't do that. Now, I don't think Hannah and Dave minded us showing up at lunchtime empty-handed. They moved here from England and they lived here for about a year and a half. But I now know you never go to someone's house empty-handed and don't show up at meal times. I made a whole video of the amazing people in this country, especially when I fell and got hurt. And when my hubby and I got lost, we were on our way to sign our lease agreement at the notary's office. There is a sense of community here it's hard to describe, but easy to feel. And the people here genuinely want to help you. It's very different than living in Canada. And people always think of Canada as having the nice people, but I tell you the truth, this is next level kindness. Canada, you have a lot of catching up to do. I would say that the people in Newfoundland kind of come sort of the closest to the people of El Salvador, but still not quite there, just closer. In Canada, often life felt rushed or people felt isolated. Everyone has their own little silos. People have a lot on their plates. That's just how it is, right? It just feels like they don't have time for each other except maybe Christmas, New Year's, Easter, that kind of stuff. Here, people have the time to connect. And maybe that's the slower lifestyle of living in a tropical country. The cost of living. Now, let's talk about the cost of living. This is one of the biggest reasons why we decided to leave Canada. Life in Canada has become incredibly expensive. Housing, groceries, utilities, you name it. Here in El Salvador, you can stretch your budget much further. For example, fresh produce at a local market costs a fraction of what we pay at home in Canada, and housing is significantly more affordable. However, it's not just about saving money, it's about the quality of life we get for what we spend. We feel less financial stress here and more freedom to enjoy the simple pleasures of life. Let's go over my bills. We made a recent trip to PriceSmart for our monthly grocery items. Not everything is cheaper there, but we don't buy everything there. We go to Maxi Despensa or Super Selectos for other items. We did a really big grocery order when we first moved to this house, putting lots of meat and bread in the freezer. And that trip was on October 4th, and it was for a few $100s. I still have about 3 dinners left there on November 18th when hubby went to get more. We did have to buy 1 loaf of bread at the corner store in our complex, and GJ went out for a small trip for fruit and vegetables at the beginning of November. All in all, the groceries are cheaper here, even with the conversion of US dollars to Canadian dollars. There are also agromercados here that the government has sponsored, these food markets with fixed prices, and it's very inexpensive. They're open from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. and ours is about 7 kilometers away. So we haven't ventured out there yet because we need to take an Uber to get out there. Now we got our electricity bill at our Airbnb. Now that was supposed to be included, but the bill was so high that she went after us for some money. This is the only person I can feel that tried to scam us in this country was that Airbnb hostess. Now I saw the bill, they slipped the mail. There's no real mail. They slipped the paper under the door. That's how you get your utility bills. Here we have a little mailbox in our gate and they just slipped the paper in there. There's no envelopes. The electric bill at the Airbnb was sort of folded in half with sort of glue on the side, but you could just open it and you could see. Plus she'd already sent me what it was in a screenshot from her looking it up online, I guess. Anyway, that bill was like $626. So we thought, holy crap, what is the electricity cost here? Now, we were told that the electricity cost in that area in Zaragoza is actually more expensive than the electricity cost here in Lourdes. It's a different electric company. Del Sur was the one at the Airbnb, and it's AES. That's what the bill is here. So different companies, different rates. I honestly don't know why. I don't know why that's not standardized, but I know that Bukele had gone after these companies a while back for price gouging. So maybe that's like an ongoing thing. So the Airbnb, she claimed that we, spent basically quadruple what people would have normally spent. She said the monthly bill normally was $140 for a group of 5 people. Now, I don't know if that meant 5 people that lived there full time like we did, or 5 people that were there going to work during the day or only on the weekends or something like that. We had the AC units on in the bedrooms. There was 3 units, and we left them like 24, 26 degrees. So they were on all the time, but they were set quite high. So mostly like they didn't cut in. It was just the fans that were on all the time. And anyway, that made the bill, supposedly, like if you imagine that you have the AC only on at night for 8 hours instead of 24 hours. And if you take the $626 and cut it down into thirds, be about, 200 and whatever dollars. That's close to the 140 that she was talking about. So maybe that's all it was the AC. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she was running some sort of mining operation in that bedroom that was locked in that place. I don't know, because that was a really large electric bill. So in contrast, I got the electric bill here, not knowing what to consider, right? What was it going to look like? Now, when we got the bill, it was only for 3 weeks that we'd actually lived here, because I think we moved in on the 28th of September, and I think the billing cycle started the 18th of September or somewhere around that time. So it was about a week when we weren't actually living here. So imagine it's like 75% of what our normal bill would cost. Well, that bill was $47.66. So you'd imagine that if it was for the whole 4 weeks of the month, it'd be about maybe $65. Now, we don't have any AC here, so it's just the fans, my ceiling fans going right above my head here. I have a little USB fan on my nightstand. I have the tower fans out in the family room. The kids have ceiling fans in their bedroom, and we have a lot of electronics. Like everyone has a laptop and tablets and phones and all this stuff. So we have a lot of stuff plugged in like all the time. So I'm imagining about $65 a month here for electricity. Now, the water bill just came in last week, and we never got a water bill in October. So this was like a double bill, and there was a late fee. And the late fee was really expensive. It was a third of the bill. The whole bill for the 2 months plus the late fee that was really, really high was $7.22. The late fee was like $1.14, which is like a third of the bill. That's quite inexpensive for a water bill. Under $10, that's crazy. Now, drinking water is another thing because we don't drink that water. So what we're told about the water in El Salvador is that there was some unethical mining practices in the past from countries like Canada, gotta say, we're the baddies, and they disturbed the water table so much so that the heavy metals like arsenic, other lethal toxic elements have gone into the water supply. Also, the water, like when we get our ANDA water here, that water is warmer, ironically, than the water in the tank outside behind us. So it is coming from the ground, and the ground does not stay very cold. We don't have hot water here, but the water's not so cold you can't take a shower because it's just warm naturally from probably volcanic activity. So warmer water, of course, would breed more bacteria like E. coli. So unless you have a water filter here, and maybe even with a water filter, you might want to get it tested to make sure it's really drinkable. You don't drink the water come from the tap. So we spend $2.85 per every 5-gallon jug of water, and we go through for 7 days. We probably go through 5. It's about like a day and a half per, and we started making our own iced tea with our water instead of buying iced tea. We got the powdered stuff from Price Mart. So, we're not buying a lot of extra drinks. We're using that water in a drink. I make my coffee with it. We have it in the iced tea. So unless we're buying something else like alcohol or something, this is what we're drinking all the time. And so we're going about 5 people, 5 a week-ish, So that's probably for the month at 4.3 weeks per month, about $61.30 per month on drinking water. Our internet costs $32.99 per month, and so that's all of our utilities. We do prepay for our cell phones. So I buy the $12 package for the month, and that's 5 gigabytes of data, but that includes YouTube, TikTok, WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. All those things don't count towards your 5 gig limit. Those are just added on. This is why everyone here uses WhatsApp to communicate, because even if you buy a $2 package with Tigo, they give you 14 days of WhatsApp. So you buy a $2 package, I think it's 2 gigs. That's what my husband has gotten. He gives him 2 gigs of data, but it's only for 2 days. But then after that, you get 14 days or 12 more days, I guess it is, of WhatsApp for free. So you can just do this twice a month. If you don't need a lot of data, but you want to have something to communicate with people, then you just use WhatsApp instead of actual cell service to call people. On mine with the $12, I do have 60 minutes to talk to people outside the Tigo network. network. The Tigo network's unlimited, so I can call anyone on Tigo, but outside it's 60 minutes, and that includes Canada and the United States as well. So hubby doesn't always get the $12 package. He's gotten the $12 package twice. Most of the time, he just sticks with the $2 package. So for my costs for the month, I'm going to break this down. We pay $600 for rent. That includes our $35 security fee. The electricity, I'm going to say approximately $65 for the month. Water, I'd say is normally about $3.25 per month for the regular water bill. Drinking water, I'll say $62. Internet, $32.99. Phone, $12 minimum depending on what we're getting. I pay $12 for sure for mine. I might do a couple of $2 packages for the kids as well. And my husband might get a $12 package or a $2 package. So, sort of like $24, maybe $30 max for that. Groceries, I would say about $125 per week, although we don't necessarily go per week. But when we lived in our Airbnb, we were going sort of each week, and it was about $125. That was our average. It's hard to say because when we first moved here, we did a big order to fill our freezer, which was way more than a week's worth of food. So I'm just going to say on average $125 per week. Okay, I've had to redo this part of the video to correct my math. It's about $1,333 per month living in El Salvador. That's a little under $1,900 Canadian. So that's for a family of 5. If you only have a couple that is retired or you have fewer than 3 children, it's going to be less for you. So think about that. I could not live in Canada for $1,900 a month. That just was not feasible. So the cost of living here is much more beneficial to a family. Okay, the weather and lifestyle. That's number 3. The weather here is another big change. In Canada, we're used to long winters, snow shoveling, gray skies, and no one likes to shovel the snow. And my family wasn't really an outdoorsy snow family. We went sledding like once since the kids were kind of bigger, and nobody likes snowshoeing or any of those things. So we're not really the snow people outside. We're more the camping in the summer kind of people, right? Here in El Salvador, well, it's eternal summer. So we're good. So we have opportunities to go to theme parks, water parks year round, right? We're not necessarily going to be camping here. Well, maybe we will. I don't know in the future. But, this is a place to do all the summer fun activities. And that said, adjusting to the rainy season, that's been interesting. The rain can be intense at times, but it's part of the rhythm of life here. And the landscape is all the more beautiful for it because we have so much green lushness out there. Most days it would rain just for like 30 minutes to 60 minutes, and then the sun would be shining again. Over this weekend, we had some constant rain, like 2.5 days were sort of constant rain. That's how it normally would be in Canada. When we had a rainy day, it'd be rainy all day. That's the first time we've had that here. And I know there was a hurricane off the east coast, I believe, on Friday or Saturday. So maybe that had something to do with that. We're not close enough to get a hurricane, but maybe it affected our weather. We learned to embrace it. We find joy in the sound of the raindrops, and the lush greenery it brings is amazing. The food. Oh, the food. Salvadorian cuisine can be a delightful discovery for us. Pupusas, tamales, fresh seafood, ceviche, anyone? Every meal feels like an adventure. I never thought of having shrimp on French fries smothered with ketchup and cheese. I never dreamed of having this dish until I had it here. Twice. Trying new foods as well as getting takeout from local restaurants. That's been a fun way to immerse ourselves in the culture and teach our kids about this new chapter of our lives. And they love pupusas. So that's awesome. Oh, and they make some really good iced coffee here in the land of coffee farms. Safety and security. One question we often get is it safe? I'll be honest, before we did our scouting trip last year, we had concerns. El Salvador has a reputation, or had a reputation, I'm not sure, but it's not the whole story. There's a lot of stuff happens here. We found that since Bukele declared war on the gangs, this country's become so safe. I grew up in Port Hawkesbury, Nova Scotia, and it was a very small town, and we lived in a trailer court there. I have no idea how many people lived there, but, it was small. I would say, I don't know if there was even 500 people lived there. But as a child, I would wake up, either in the summer or any weekend morning. I would get dressed, I would eat my breakfast, and I'd be gone until I was hungry again. And my mom had no idea what kind of mischief I may or may not have been up to. I'm not going to admit to anything. And at dark, we'd come home. And no one worried about anyone abducting you. That was not a thing. We were told, don't take candy from strangers. That was the only thing we were, told as children. So I'll tell you a story. Where we lived in Ontario, it was very rural. We were on the highway and we had a cross street. So we were at a corner. My friend lived 1 kilometer down that side road. One day, my kids were walking back from my friend's house, and a car had approached Lawrence and asked him if he wanted to ride. My kids were smart enough not to get in the car with a stranger. Actually, Lawrence said, no, hell no, and he started to run home with Annika. My friend in Smith Falls told me later on that her friend had told her not to let her son out in the evenings because they were rounding up young boys for sex trafficking. Latin America was known for child sex trafficking as well, often by the gangs, and the government's been making great strides to improve security, and we've seen those changes firsthand. That has really been cleaned cleaned up here. And now when my kids wake up, on the weekends, because we're doing homeschooling during the weekdays, when they wake up on the weekends, we're in this gated community. They run around that gated community. I have literally no worries. They've been at friends' houses that I only met the parents weeks later, and they were spending almost every day at these friends' houses. I don't have any worries. It's like when I grew up. I feel like I've given my children the gift of my childhood, because now they have the freedom that I knew as a child that we've been really lacking in Canada. Adjusting to the language. This is a fun one because I've been doing Duolingo now for, I'm thinking it said 830 days straight on my streak the other day. It's been a while. Anyway, I have been doing it for over two years now. Adjusting to a new culture, well, that's been a challenge and a joy. But learning Spanish, that's been a priority for us. I got the family pack for Duolingo, so Willem and I have been doing the Duolingo. I tried to get on again on it. She kind of abandoned it. Kind of got DJ on it. He kind of abandoned it because he finds Duolingo kind of boring. He's doing other things. But it's the key to really connecting with people. And people here really do like that you're trying to make an effort. That's what I've seen anyway. So part of our homeschooling is we do Bible study in the morning, and after that we do a Spanish lesson. So we were doing videos on Homeschool Pop. He was doing some Spanish lessons there. And now we moved on to the language tutor. That and the kids being with their friends who are helping them with the language. I've been trying my best to try to work in Spanish everywhere I can. But my biggest fear, and I have to tell you, this is my biggest fear, is when somebody calls me on the telephone and they do not speak English, my heart starts racing. Like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? Okay, listen carefully. So yesterday, it's so funny, I was out and the phone rang and I could understand they were talking about Tigo. Okay, well, Tigo, and they were saying home internet. And I said, first off, hablas inglés? Like, please? And then I even asked, en persona que habla, inglés en tu oficina? Like, I'm trying my best to try to get a good communication. Anyway, that was not the case. She had no one who spoke English in her office. So I understood she was saying something about home internet. So I said, I already have it, right? I already have the home internet. And then she said, so, internet de hogar or something like that. So yes, I have home internet. Then she said something, because I said, hablas muy rápido. She was speaking so fast. So she did try to slow it down. And I kind of thought I understood what she said, but then I just said, lo siento, no entiendo. And so she did a translator and she came back, she said, have a good day. I'm like, I think that's what she was saying. Okay. I said, gracias. So yeah, she's just trying to sell me internet. But my heart races. I don't know if this is an important call. I don't know if it's a government official calling me up about her immigration. I don't know. I just panic. So that's my biggest fear. I'm going to tell you, that's what I'm most afraid of. Infrastructure and utilities. Now, another question people ask is about the infrastructure. The internet and utilities had been reliable, which was a pleasant surprise. I think that we only lost power twice in the 3 months that we were here, once in the Airbnb and once here in Lourdes. And I think it was less than 10 minutes the last time it went out. The roads and the public transport are improving. But, it can be an adventure all by themselves. The traffic can be daunting, we'll say. And where we live in Lourdes, it's the Pan American Highway. They call it Los Chorros Highway. It's undergoing some major renovations. And it once took us 2 hours to get to Santa Tecla, and that's 16 kilometers away. Normally, it does take 1 hour to get to Santa Tecla, but this time it was like extra long. We've also learned to be patient and kind of adapt to this slower pace of life. Things don't always happen as quickly as we're used to, especially when it comes to government bureaucracy, but it's part of the charm and the learning curve of living in this new country. Looking back on these 3 months, I can honestly say that moving to El Salvador has been one of the best decisions we've made. We've removed ourselves from the politics of Canada, where freedom of speech and religion are severely under attack. It's not perfect here, and no place is, but it's a place where we found peace, adventure, and a sense of freedom. If you think about making a similar move, my advice is to do your research, stay open-minded, and be ready to embrace change. El Salvador has so much to offer for those willing to take the leap. Thank you for joining us on this journey. And if you like this video, then hit the subscribe button. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions about our lives in El Salvador. I read every one of them, and I really have been trying to reply to all of them. And we'll see you on the next one.
Don't forget to hit the like button.